It's a good question. So, I think it's first important to understand that media, I think for both of us, became an aspect of what we do much later, as we looked at it as both a tool and a additional source of expression within architectural spaces, particularly public spaces. But I think one of the key things, and I think it's important for you to, give your own perspective on this. When we were together, first looking at how we might use media, because we weren't entirely sure we wanted to use media. The question was, what's happening to our social spaces? Going back to William White and so on. We notice more and more that the digital was having an effect on the analog world that we love. That effect was, in our view, not entirely positive. It was maybe more negative in that the digital was acting as it wasn't just media, but was mediating and blocking human engagement in real spaces. So, this device got in the way of actually, you could be in Piazza San Marco and looking at your digital device and missing the Piazza San Marco and what was going on and so on. So the question was there a way to really create, instead of the split presence, that's the term that we used, split presence, where your presence was split, your attention was split between the digital world more and more and the analog world. Was there a way to create co-presence where the digital could enrich and enhance your sense of being in that place? That was the first challenge. And as before we had a specific project, we had both worked on previous projects. Marcela had worked on Perkins Row and began to discover some things about how a multimedia environment could create a sense of elevated engagement. I had worked on a project in Philadelphia before I knew Marcela called Lights of Liberty, where we used projection at night to tell the story of the initial days of the American Revolution. And I think it both lit us up to the possibilities of the technology, but we had a real appreciation for the fact that the technology could also have some real negative unintended consequences.
And also, if you actually were to take the features out of the space, it's a much drier experience than if you actually put them in the space. So it's almost like a theatrical enhancement to a place where you feel better in that space. And we're doing it right now, like in Orlando. If you take the features out rather than put them in, they add a lot to the space itself, to softening the space, to communicate. What is the airport about? What is it? Where are you going? What is it the airport about?
Well, I think the airport's a good example. So at LAX, the way that an airport's designed is that it's largely a logistical design. You're moving people from one spot to another, from security out to their gates, as efficiently as possible. And there's some sense that you provide some amenity along the way, but it's really a logistical design. So the challenge was, when we think about travel, we think about it as engaging and romantic and so on. The question with the media was, at the various points that the media was being placed, and we had some influence on where it would be placed, on both the departure journey, people getting into the airport and getting ready to board their flights, and the arrival experience. How do you create various moments of engagement along the way that would otherwise not exist? And how do you do that in a way that's complementary to the dwell spaces that are created in the airport, places where people can stop and sit, or as Marcela was describing, where they're in transit, but you try and lighten up that transit experience in a way that makes it more connected to what's going on in the mindset of the person at various moments along that journey.